I'm back, y'all. Come vibe with me. Come on. You know, sometimes you gotta love yourself more. I'm riding on a wave of loving me. The words people say, not rubbing me. The games that he played, not fun to me. I cut my heartstrings from tugging me. You major been LA, stop bugging me. No longer in my head, no running me. I turn my energy into loving me. And as I look in the mirror, you know, it's a vibe for me. The smile for me. The queen status shining through her eyes for me. Many L's, never frail, that's a vibe for me. Tunnel vision, she's my mission, it's all the love for me, yeah. I'm riding on the wave. I'm loving me.
Hey everybody, what's going on? That was Danita Baby, yes. Check out her poetry on all the major platforms. Wave of Love, poetry by Danita Baby. Yes, she's on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And check out her podcast called Let's Talk Perspectives. That's Danita Baby. Check her out.
The smile for me, the queen status shining through her eyes for me. Many L's, never frail. I'm back, y'all.
Hey everyone, this is Preezy from the Listen Up, Listen In podcast. Go check me out. But you gotta check out the Nathaniel Noble Jr. podcast at www.mrnoblepodcast.com. That's www.mrnoblepodcast.com. What's the podcast about? Well, let me break it down for you. He talks about life because it happens to everyone, with great guests and indie artists, Q&A sessions, along with positive vibes. Talking to everyday people about life's journey and to connect hearts and souls of the common woman and man. Whether it's education, motivation, determination, and letting out some frustration, you gotta check out the Nathaniel Noble Jr. podcast. Do you have a story to share? Well, sign up to be a guest. He's on all the podcast platforms. That's the Nathaniel Noble Jr. podcast. Let's get it.
Tanya, you ready?
Listen up, listen in. 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 Thanks for tuning in. Let's have a conversation. Talking worldwide, it don't matter your location. What you going through and the topic may have relation. Let's get some motivation. Swap out education. Every Friday we heal, laugh, improve, and grow. Put some nutrients in your mind, give you food for the soul. I know you pumped and preparing for your weekend and low. Might as well join the discussion and tune into the show. Listen up, listen in. Listen up, listen in. Listen up, listen in. Listen up, listen in. Listen up, listen in.
Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Preezy from Listen Up, Listen In podcast. I'm so happy that you tuned in. And I have a special guest with me today. Y'all know I always have special guests. But before I even get started, all praises to Jehovah God and Jesus Christ every day. Amen. And let me tell you a little bit about this young lady here. Yes, she is a new author coming out with her new title, Stranger in a Familiar Place. She grew up in a family of 7 siblings and has lived in Iceland. She's Alabama born, but she lives in Georgia with her husband, 2 cats, and a dog. And on the weekends, you can find her playing pool or gaming in her Otaku room. Yeah, what I said, Otaku room. So without further ado, let's give a round of applause for Barakah Smith. Hey, Barakah, what's going on?
What's going on, Preezy? Way to go in that otaku room. I was so proud of you. And by the way, for
Man,
anyone listening, otaku is a Japanese word for basically a fanatic. So in Japan, they have what they call otaku or fanatics who like anime, gaming, that kind of thing. And so a person who's really into it, they are called otaku. So my room is basically in where I have my gaming thing set up is all dedicated to all the things I love, gaming, anime. So we call it our otaku room.
oh, cause that's unique. Cause I was thinking, oh, they be making tacos all day in there. That would be hot.
No,
I ain't know. And I had to say it 100 times to get it right. Oh, taco room. What's that? That's different. But
You know
I'm
what? I
glad
had
you
somebody
explained
else say the
it.
same thing. She's all like, y'all
Really?
have a taco room? Like, y'all like tacos that much? Like, nah, bro, it's not like that.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, Olay. But that's good. I'm glad you explained that. But before we even get started, how's your day going?
It is going amazing, Preezy. So, little side tip. I'm also on a weight loss journey. In addition to being an author, we got to get, the hot girl summer thing going on. So I've been
Oh
trying to get
yeah.
my hot girl summer on. But I recently have been trying to lose weight, and right now I'm almost 70 pounds lost. So like I'm really really
What?
proud of myself. And yeah, girl, I was been so happy about that. So it's been a good day.
Oh wow, that's awesome. I'm on a weight loss journey too. I'm trying. I probably lost about an inch. I don't know, but
Look, ain't it? Look, it matters. Every little bit matters. I have
yes,
been listening to this one dude, and he's talking about how people get on plateaus, and then that's when they fail or quit. And he's all like, when you ride in the bus, and you don't get off the bus because somebody else is getting on while the bus is stopping, or it's not your place to get off. He's like, you sit there and you keep on riding the bus until it's your time to get off. He's like, that's the same
right.
way when we do it with weight loss and everything. Don't get off the bus just because it's not your stop. So that has been my thing, is like, don't get off the bus.
There you go. That is cool. And kudos to you and your journey. I know you said 70 pounds?
Yeah, just about.
Wow, that's good. Man. So what's your secret?
My secret is finding things that work for me. So mostly, everybody's got their little keto, low calorie diet, blah blah blah. I mean, if we're being really honest, it really is a keto diet. But I basically cut out a lot of my sugars and really went cut back on
Mm,
carbohydrates. But you know how everybody has those little cravings, and that's what really kind of trips them up every once in a while. So in order to get my sweet tooth fix, I switched to a product called monk fruit, which is really, really basically 0 calories and has the sweetness that we're looking for, basically an alternate sweetener. But it has done wonders. I make cupcakes, all kinds of stuff with this stuff, and people are like, this is no sugar. I be like, yeah, girl, it's on point. I don't eat nothing that's nasty.
right.
So I've been making believers out of everybody using this product. So and then I exercise 5 days a week.
Oh, that's good. And see, I have a gym in my backyard. It's a huge shed back there. So I really don't, it's really excuses. I can't do what I really want to do because I have injuries, but ailments that stop me from doing certain things. But there is no excuse. I gotta do a little bit more better than what I'm doing. And my problem is sugar, like bread and pasta. That's I gotta be careful with that because diabetes, you know.
Right?
And so I am
I don't.
really, really trying. I cut back though, because I was like a light and sweet. As soon as I go to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, y'all know me, light and sweet. Just look the way I look. Don't play with
Girl,
me. And
I
then,
got you because mine was potatoes. Anything potato.
oh,
I
yeah.
was on it.
Bread, oh my God, I can eat bread all day. And the doctor told me, hey, you borderline. Better stop playing. That's when I said, okay, that's it. Enough is enough. Let me stop playing. I know a lot of
Right.
people that suffer from diabetes, and I don't want to be in that situation. It's no joke. So, yeah, I've been doing a little bit better and increasing my water. I've been drinking a lot of water. So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and even in the beginning, I mean, not saying I don't know what type of injuries you have, but I mean, most people are like, well, I can't work out 5 days a week. I was like, honestly, for me, all I did in the beginning was walk, because that was what I could do,
yes,
was walk. So I'd be walking sometimes, 10 miles in one week, just whatever I could do, that's what I could do, and the weight came off. I was like, but that's all I could do is what was, just walk a couple miles. Actually, it was just a mile at first. But now I'm into weightlifting and starting to get some kind of muscle definition, and I'm like, yeah,
Nice.
that's great. But you didn't see where I started though. That's the whole thing. People always like to see where you started and then where you end, but they don't like to see what you've been doing in the meantime to get from that one point to another point. It's like, no, there was a lot of stuff that happened and it wasn't easy.
Right. Definitely, I want to get 20 pounds off. So my problem was going eating late at night too. I would get the
Mm.
munchie. You thought I would smoke some weed or something. But I would just get up in the middle of the night and be like, I want a sandwich. Can't do that. You gotta have a balance. You gotta stay on point. So that's good. Kudos to you. I'm gonna do it. Just that I don't know if I could do all the stuff I used to do.
You know
So
what? I would just say, if I had to give any piece of advice, knowing your background, but I would just say do what you can and don't judge yourself by what you could do, but judge by, what you're able to do.
bye.
A lot of times,
Thank
like
you.
even me, I was really, really fit in my younger years. Matter of fact, I was almost contracted to be a pro soccer player when I was like 10.
Wow.
So I was in it to win it. Like I could do it in a heartbeat. I could outrun most of the people, at least in short distance anyway. Long distance we can talk, but short distance
Right.
I had you. Short
Right.
distance I had you though.
Right.
But I knew I couldn't do that. That's not me now. So I really had to give myself some slack to be like, okay, that's not where we are right now. This is where we are. We're gonna judge about what you can do right now.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, I could probably beat you in skipping, but I don't know
You
about no
probably
running.
could.
I'll skip you to death, but I can't. I don't know about that running. That running, I don't know. But that's
Now, like I
good
said,
though.
short burst, short sprint. I probably could
Right.
smoke dust out for any bunny, but long distance, I'm a lose gas real quick.
Right. Right. That's good though. Keep up the good work. Wow, that's excellent. So now that's accomplishment that you discussed with us. You start and a lot of people, that's the biggest thing now. They trying to figure out how can I lose weight? What should I do? And that's good. Uh got yourself into a program or whatever, and you stuck by it, and you lost 70 pounds. So that's excellent. But you were author. You were a new
Yeah.
author. Yeah. How did I get started?
So long, long ago, there was a little girl named Baracka. And you can tell I'm an author, right? We started off with long, long
Yeah,
ago.
right. Once upon a
Um,
time.
but a little girl named Baracka who's number 5, by the way, in her sibling count, and she was homeschooled. Her mom homeschooled all the little kids, and I was next up to start reading. And other than the fact that, my mom used this alphabet song to teach us the alphabet and the phonetics that went along with each letter, other than me absolutely loving that song at 3 years old, after that phase of learning the alphabet song, I hated to read. Absolutely hated to read. My mom
Wow.
would try to get me to read stuff, and I'd be like, "Nah, ma, I'd rather be outside playing." Because growing up as a tomboy, you rather hang out with the fellas and rip your
Like,
jeans and play football, all that
that's
good stuff.
right. Tear them ankles up.
So,
I don't care.
right, I will tell you good. Anyway,
Yeah.
so she would take us to the library. That was my mom's thing. Is that every Wednesday she would take us to the library, and we'd have to pick out 3 books, one about history, at least one nonfiction book, and then a book of our choice, whatever it was, we could choose it. And we'd have to read those nonfiction and fiction books because she would read the same books we would. So she would quiz us on whatever we
Wow.
read just to make sure that we read the book. So I
Wow.
couldn't get out of that. So, and I hated those times. The only thing that really offset it was every Friday she'd take us out for bowling if we had, read the weekly whatever we were supposed to read for that week. So I was like, all right, bowling at the end of it, I'll do it for that. Um, so I mean, it wasn't that I was a bad reader. I could read really well, actually. In school, I don't know if you remember, they had like that AR program, or accelerated reader is what it was called. And
Right.
they had all these points associated with these different books. And if you read the books, then you would get, points, and then you could cash those points in for different prizes. Well, me, of course, I'm motivated by prizes. So if I had to sludge through a book, fine. I will sludge through a book if it meant I could get what I really wanted.
Right.
Well, it just so happens I picked up J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And just as a note for all people listening, I am not a Harry Potter fan. This is just a catalyst. Don't get all excited. But she was part of the AI program. I picked up her book, and I was seriously so impressed by the fact that I picked up this book and felt like there was this whole world in my backyard that I could literally just walk, drive, fly to, whatever you want to call it. I'm sitting up here testing the wall, making sure. I was like, okay, it's a real wall, like, I can't go through
Wow.
that, get to the train station. And I felt like, oh my gosh, this might be a real place. And so I was like, all right, so now I gotta try to find something else that transport me the way this book did. And so
Right.
after that, it just became a matter of fact of, well, what book is she not reading kind of thing. I became a voracious reader after that. And my mom would now, instead of trying to shove books in my face, she would have to be taking books away from me because I'd be reading at night. Like I would have a little flashlight
Wow.
going on and underneath my covers trying to read these big fat books that normally would take people sometimes months to read, and I'd be finishing in a weekend or an hour or whatever.
Oh,
Like you
wow.
couldn't keep a book in my hand. And that's how where my love for reading started. Just by an accident, really. I think if I hadn't found something similar to, J.K. Rowling's book or something else that would have just sparked my imagination, I probably would have still hated reading today.
Right. Wow.
But yeah, it was cool finding these places, and then from there, I started coming up with my own scenarios. So schools would have different competitions, writing competitions for the newspaper, local competitions, for national writing competitions, and I would just submit, little short stories here or there. One that I remember most notably was when I was in middle school, and I wrote a story. They wanted a story about going to the center of the earth. And I wrote a short story about how these people were using the tectonic shifts in plates in the earth to reach the center of the earth. And long story short, they do get it to the center of the earth, but everybody died. And
Oh, wow.
apparently at that time, that was so unheard of for
Wow.
someone my age to write something of that depth and to really kind of think like, oh, this is, not only was this plausible, what she wrote, but did not have a happy ending. Like
Yeah, right?
this is not
What
cool.
in the, what in the,
So, it was fun, and that's basically where I started to write my own stories and to bring my own ideas to life.
oh, that's awesome. Now, you said your mom, um, homeschooled y'all. Any particular reason?
My mom loves to teach. That's pretty probably the most first and foremost reason is she loves
Oh,
to teach.
okay.
She is a teacher by nature and a teacher by profession. She teaches biology and has a master's in education. Um, so she loved to teach every one of us. And so at the time, it was more economical for her to homeschool us. With 7 kids, again, you can't necessarily, daycare is still expensive even back then. So,
Right.
being a home mom was much easier, on the bills than her working and then having to, worry about all of us and putting us in different daycares and stuff. So she stayed home with us and then also taught us for homeschooled until I reached about the 5th grade. And so after 5th grade, everybody was old enough and in school and whatnot. So she was like, all right, I can go back to work kind of thing.
Wow. That was awesome that your mom did that. Were you kind of mad that you had to go back to school? Like, I'd
Well, I
rather
mean,
be home.
I had never actually been to a public school until 5th grade. All my life, I had
Mm.
basically been homeschooled, and
Right.
when I went, I was not terrified, but I just didn't know really how to socialize. And
Right.
most people have this joke like homeschoolers are so awkward and so this, and they don't have a lot of social skills. And it wasn't even that. My mother was very, very active in a social community. They had other homeschoolers, and they would go out and they would take the kids out to various different places. And I got to meet a whole bunch of interesting people from different countries and learn a whole bunch of different things. My mom was really good about that. But it was just something about this setting that that just made me kind of shut down a little bit. And every parent teacher conference, or the first one, I should say, my mom and my dad came and they said, "Well, how's Baracka?" And my teacher was all like, "Oh, she's so bright, but she's really quiet." And my mom looked at
Oh,
me and was all like, "My Baracka?"
quiet.
I wasn't the most voracious talker, but this Baracka, this Baracka right here. She's like, "Yeah, she doesn't really say much in class at all." No, I didn't. I was kind of quiet, so it was a little bit of an adjustment period. My husband will make a joke and say like, "Well, you don't act like you were homeschooled." I was like,
Oh,
I figured it out after a while. It's like, but there
right,
was this period of where I was like, all right, I don't know what y'all doing. Um, and and to not to bring the mood down a little bit lighter, but it was a different tone than where, because I had been homeschooled, I was a lot brighter than kids that were my
right.
age, the same scenario. So, going back to the whole reading aspect, while kids were reading at a 5 or 6 grade level, I was already reading at a college grade level by the time I was in fifth grade.
What? Get out
Yeah.
of here.
So, yeah. So taking tests and everything, my skills and aptitude were already in high school and or slash college, just naturally testing. So it was a very big gap of understanding between, what a kid should know and then what I knew, so to speak, or that, at least that perception anyway. And sometimes I would get bullied for it. Like, "Oh, you're just a know-it-all," and truly, I didn't wasn't trying to be a know-it-all, or but it was just something I already knew, or if someone asked me a question, I would know the answer. So I kind of got this propensity of being a know-it-all, a teacher's pet, because teachers obviously loved a kid that knew all the answers and everything. And I
Right.
was very well-mannered, very polite. I was everybody's favorite. Matter of fact, my mom had to beat some of the teachers off and be like, "No, this is not your child. You did not birth her." Like,
Wow.
this is mine.
Oh, that's crazy. What?
Yeah,
Wow.
so
So,
it was a little bit of an adjustment period when I first went into school. I don't think I had the best debut, but again, I learned.
right. The bullying, huh? We were just talking about kids bullying and, uh, I don't know, kids just doing everything. They just bully kids for no reason. Now they bullying the smart kid. I guess they jealous because they didn't know that 2 plus 2 wasn't blue. You know what I mean?
Right?
Eh.
Honestly, and when I was growing up, like, not to saying that bullying wasn't a thing back then. Bullying has
Right,
been around since the dawn of time, but I guess it wasn't n- known how far bullying can go. With with children these days. And I remember, I would come home a lot, being beat up and bruised and stuff like that, and I would hide it
wow,
from my parents and everything. And someone was like, "Well, why didn't you tell your parents?" And I was like, "Well, you know what? The funny thing about it is, I did. I told my dad actually. I was like, 'Dad, I'm getting beat up at school,' and I told him some of the things that were happening at school." And he looked at me, and it wasn't that he necessarily called me a liar. It was just, you could just see it in his face that, what? People can't do that. People aren't that mean. And basically, that's what he said to me, is that, "Baraka, people can't be that cruel." And I'm like, "Yeah, they can't." But
right,
because of the disbelief, not necessarily that he felt like I was lying, I felt like I thought I was exaggerating the situation more than what it was. And because of that, I didn't say anything else about it. And just kind of dealt with the bullying as it came up to. Some years later, of course, me and my father reconciled that a long time ago. We're still on good
right.
terms. He loves me, everything, all the love. Um, but it was just one of those things, like, it was unheard of. And my mother, being now in the school system, she had happened to get one of the people that used to bully
Erica,
me
I'm
in
sorry, I
school.
don't mean to cut you off. Pull the phone back just a little bit.
How about
Talk,
that?
cause it's yeah, that's good. Okay.
All right.
So your mom did what now? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. My mother got one of the bullies that used to bully me in school, and
Huh?
he thought it would be a great idea to let my mom know all the things that they used to do to me in school and laugh about it. And my
Oh
mother
no.
tore all of them a new one. I mean, just absolutely ripped them to shreds, all up and down. And then she called me and she's like, I am so sorry. She's like, when you told me about it, he's like, I just couldn't believe that kids would do bullying to that extent. And the fact that he
Wow.
had the nerve to laugh at it in front of me just baffles me. She's like, Baracka,
Wow.
I'm sorry. I was like, Ma, it's okay. I'm beyond it. We're beyond it. We're cool. You know.
Wow. Kids is just, I don't know. It's a lot of that bullying stuff going on. Like back in the days, I was just talking on the other show before, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and we was like, we had bullying. Bullying has always been, like you said. But today, when kids are being bullied, killing themselves. I never really heard back in the days in the 70s and 80s, most of the times if you was bullied, you either handled it yourself or you just, you went on and did what you had to do. Never really heard of kids committing suicide when it came to bullying. And if you were bullied and some of the tough kids, like the known kids knew, they stuck up for you. Like, yo, you better leave them alone, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that's going on now, but now the kids are committing suicide. Like I read an article last week, and I was talking about it on the show. A 10-year-old killed himself because he was being bullied. The father made complaints to the school. He did everything. And the young
Mhm.
boy was like, Dad, I don't want to go to school. He's like, I'm going to try to do the best I can to help you. He kept going up to the school. He was talking to everybody. And the boy killed himself. So it's really bad when it comes to this bullying. I don't know. People just, it's so bad. I don't know. It's
I
terrible. It's
really do
terrible.
believe that it's a product of people not standing up for others. Like,
Right,
believe me, I am a great proponent of mind your business. Like,
right,
if it ain't your business, mind it. Kind of thing. But at
right,
the same time, I think society has gotten to a point where if we see injustice, we just ignore it because we don't want the hassle. We don't want the backlash that may come with it from how other people may see us. Like, well, you did
right,
it. Like, everything now is so politically correct, and you can't say, hey, without something being popped off or inundated. I
right,
just think people are just afraid to stand up for what's right. And I know it seems like some really old or antiquated thing to say, but I truly do believe that people are afraid of that. I told my husband, I'm like, I am as a person who was bullied, I wish someone had at least stood up for me. Even if it
right,
necessarily didn't work, you know, I would have felt so much better mentally, about my
right,
current situation if someone had just stood up for me. And I'm not talking about, your parents or whatever, though that's helpful, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, like, my own classmates, like the people who weren't bullying me, to stand up or tell the teacher or just say, hey, you might want to talk to this person. She's not doing too well, or he's not doing too well. I've seen that he gets picked on or something like that. Even if you don't want to give out names, but just standing up for the individual, even in, when it's not right. I remember, when all this was going on, I was riding the bus a lot. And after I pretty much buckled down and was all like, all right, you gonna mess with me, I'm gonna fight back, kind of thing. So I started
right.
fighting back, and all of a sudden nobody wanted to mess with me anymore.
Oh yeah.
But when my little sister came on, I made sure. I remember the first day she got on the bus, I got on the bus and I was like, look, this is my little sister. If you don't think I'm gonna punch you in the face if you mess with her, try and find out. I was like, I don't care
Mm,
if you're young, old, black, white, I don't care. You mess with her, you will mess with me. And I remember one little kid in the front, he was like in kindergarten or something like that. And I'm this high schooler, and I really truly didn't care. He went and tried to knock my sister out. I literally
Wow.
picked up his little butt and hung him out the window while a truck was coming. And he was just screaming bloody murder, and everybody is just like, Baracka, put him back in the window. And I was like, I will. So, like, you know, I kind of snatched him back in the window. He's white as a sheet. And I'm like, now, if you're big enough to hit, I hope you're big enough to fight back. So do you want to fight me? And he's like, no, no. I was like, all right. So I don't think you'll be messing with my sister again, right? And he's like, no, no. He's like, Baracka, he's just a little
Wow.
kid. Like, if he's big enough to hit, he's big enough to take the consequences of his actions.
That's
That's all
right.
I got to say. If you ready to throw hands, that means you ready to take the consequences that come with it. And they just so happened to come from me. Don't care. Don't
That's
bother my
right.
sister. She didn't bother you. Don't bother him. And nobody did. And I just think it just not necessarily to the extreme I took it. That was probably more sibling protectiveness than anything. But it was one of those things like just stand up for for stuff that's right. And we probably have less of this going on.
Exactly. Telling you, if people would just say, because that's what I say, a lot of times going to school, a lot of the tough kids kind of took up for the kids that was being bullied. I don't know if that's happening now, but they were like, yo, you better not mess with them. If you ever let me know they ever mess with you again. That's what we saw. I mean, that's what I saw. Not in every case, but a lot of the cases, the kids that I grew up with that were popular, they took up for the ones that was being bullied. And you didn't mess with them because they already had their reputation. Like that movie with Tupac, Dr. Juice. You know, ain't nobody wanted to mess. Nobody wanted to mess with. And my brother, I didn't have problems in school because one of my brothers, he had a bad reputation. He was known as a fighter. And I never forget this little boy. He was bothering me. He kept bothering me. You know, back then, boys were so silly. They liked
Right?
you, they would beat you up. It was the weirdest thing. And he kept bothering me. And I said, I'm going to get my brother on you. And my brother happened to be walking up. He said, oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to get my man Richard right here to kick your butt. And I said, you fool, that's my brother. When I tell you that this kid almost fainted when he found out that that was my brother, because my brother's reputation was so tough, bad. He said, Rich, I'm so sorry. I thought this kid was going to have a heart attack. And my brother just put his hand, and this was public school, put his hand on his shoulder and said, messing with my sister? Like, Richard, oh, I'm sorry. I said, yeah, yeah. And now I'm talking bad. I'm tough now. I was like, yeah, yeah, that's my brother. And you ever say, boy, that boy was so scared. He was so scared. So back then, that's what we had. If you were lucky, you know, to have somebody stand up for you. If you didn't, you had to take it or fight.
Right.
But these kids today, they killing themselves. What a 10-year-old know about suicide? They didn't say what he did, but it's terrible. I've heard stories 9, 8 years old committing suicide because they've been bullied, or 12. I'm like, this is bad. This is
Yeah,
so
and
bad.
it's and coming back to the book here, Stranger in a Familiar Place. I I put some of those experiences into
Wow.
writing this book. You know, the overall theme of this book is choosing life. Um, and it brings together a couple different principles, such as, what happens when people go into that limbo, if you will. Most people call it limbo or purgatory
Right.
or in between, what kind of happens in that state. So it's kind of taking that theme and some of the life experiences that I had and kind of answering that question in a very fantastical way of how we could decide, our fates and how we end up. And sometimes, there's a lot of stuff that we deal with that are not pretty. It's hard, it's hurtful, but I mean, it's one of those things that it still boils down to a choice, and whether or not
Yeah.
we're going to choose life or not.
Now we gonna talk. We gonna talk a little something now. I know you said you lived in Iceland. What is in out there in Iceland?
Will. My how we got over there is my father is an Air Force man, and when he retired, he still was working as a contracted civilian for the Air Force. And
Right.
part of his contract would be he would go to different bases and work as a EEO or equal employer opportunity, excuse me, for the different bases. And also he did trainings and stuff like that. So anyways, long story short, he got stationed in Grefavik, Iceland. My youngest baby sister was actually born in Keflavik. Um, so we were stationed there. We lived there for 5.5 years. And let me tell you, girl, you ever go up there? First off, it's some beautiful scenery there. There ain't
Wow.
no trees what to speak of, but it makes up for it in waterfalls and just beautiful meadows and lovely lush hills. It is absolutely stunning. And if you go, during when the aurora borealis can be seen, oh my gosh, it is absolutely breathtaking. I can remember one night we went outside and we were watching the aurora borealis outside, and it almost looked like it fell from the sky. Like I could literally
Wow.
reach up and run my fingers through it. It was the most magical moment in my little 5-year-old history. Like it was,
Wow.
it's almost like you met a unicorn in real life. Like it was just that awe-inspiring to me, just to have the aurora boreal that close and all around you like that. So it's absolutely gorgeous. The food, amazing, absolutely
Wow.
amazing. I have never
Nice.
tasted food anywhere else like Iceland. I mean, even their fries, the way they do their fries, I always say, Iceland has the best fries ever. If you don't believe me, go over there and try it, and then you'll find out differently. They have the best fries ever. They got land dogs. Yes, they do have fish. So if you're a big fish person, they'll hook you up with some fish. Love
Wow.
the donuts there. Oh my gosh. Like they make such a great caramel donut. I was so mad
Oh
when we came
yeah.
back to the United States because I'm like, nobody makes a caramel donut. That seems like a very legit flavor. Why does nobody
Right.
make this?
Yeah. Right. That's different.
It
So
is,
you.
and it's
So
so
go
good.
ahead, Noah. It was that good.
Oh, girl, I still look forward to this day.
Well, you can't
You know,
get them delivered. Damn.
nah, I wish I could. I mean, I know we can get dried fish. I know I can import some of the seasonings that they use on their French fries, but
Right.
I mean, there's nothing like a good lamb dog and their
Wow.
hamburgers and French fries. I mean, it's awesome. So their food is awesome. The people there are absolutely friendly. They treat you like family. They treat you like
Wow. That's
family. And
nice.
just so you know, you go in one of their houses, you know how everybody likes to give out, hors d'oeuvres, so you can sit around and chat and all that other stuff,
Right.
munch on celery. Mm-mm. They gonna give you a bowl of Skittles. That's their hors
Skittles.
d'oeuvres. Yes, I was saying them.
Taste the rainbow Skittles.
Taste the rainbow Skittles. They would
Oh.
put out a bowl of Skittles as
Oh
an
damn.
hors d'oeuvre, and you might have Hershey's Kisses on there, but it's
Oh.
Skittles usually. And I'm like, okay,
Skittles.
Skittles.
Give me a bag of Skittles and 2 pieces of bread. Damn.
Oh Lord,
Skittles sandwich. Wow.
yeah,
Skittles.
yeah,
Skittles? Oh, that's
yeah.
different.
Yeah, I know. You would think that they would, put out something else, but no. Like all the dinners I ever went to at their house, if you were waiting on dinner, you just have a bowl of Skittles just waiting on
Oh,
you. Of
Skittles.
course, mom would have to police all of us and be like, "Don't eat the Skittles." I'm
Yeah,
like, "But
right?
mom, it's
Like,
out though."
you eating dinner and you got Skittles all in your teeth. And Skittles. Well, and I like
Yeah,
Skittles. Wow.
yeah.
That's different. Wow. Watch every people when I put this recording out, people going, no, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna put this candy store and get bowls of Skittles. It's gonna have
See,
bowls of Skittles in the house. Wow, that's
some
cool.
people
So
like it.
now you in Georgia,
So now
right?
I'm in Georgia. Yep, Daddy got
Tell me.
transferred over to Georgia.
So you came to Georgia. Georgia hot, right? Oh y'all get
Georgia's really hot, and we live on the
yeah,
East Coast,
Georgia's
so
hot.
we got that lovely humidity on top of that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So when did you decide, hey, you know what? I want to write a book. When did you decide to write a book, and how did you come up with the idea of your book?
So that's actually a very interesting question of when did you decide to write a book? Because honestly, by the time I had gotten to this point of, hey, I'm going to publish a book, I had already filled like dozens and dozens of journals of stories, like full blown novel stories that I had written, and I just had always just written them and put them on the shelf. Um, I do plan to go back for some of them and see if I can't revamp them. But I was always writing stories. It wasn't actually until I read I was about to say Seraphim. It wasn't that. Aragon. Lord, I was thinking of the dragon. But but I read Aragon, and I remember reading the back of the book and reading about the author Christopher Poloni, and I was like, this boy is 19 years old. 19, and he's an author.
Wow.
I can do that, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I can do that. I was like, so I was like,
Wow.
I'm gonna write me a story that I am going to publish. I am going to publish my own story. Um, so then, it kind of was like, oh, well, what are you going to write about? You got so many ideas. You could go back and you could take one that you already did. But I was like, nah, I want a brand new story that really reflects where I am right now, my experiences of where I've been, and not go back and revamp something. So, the first thing that kind of popped into my head was when I was 10 years old, I had an out of body experience. Never had it ever again. It wasn't a life or death situation or anything like that. But when I was 10 years old, I can remember it so clearly, so vividly. I was asleep on my dad's lap. He was watching the news, and I had fallen asleep. And just the next thing I knew, I could clearly see myself laying on my dad's shoulder, asleep, while he's watching the news. And I could hear everything that was going on. I could see everything. Nothing, like, time didn't feel weird or funky or whatever. And it's not that I felt panicked or distressed or, like, confused. It was just one of those things like, hey, I can see myself.
Right.
Okay. And it lasted a few minutes, and then I could just remember waking up and remembering that I saw everything. And I remember testing it out with my dad, and I was like, Dad, were they talking about such and such on the news last night? And Dad was like, yeah, but you were asleep. I was
Right.
like, oh, okay. So that got me thinking of, the whole process of limbo and purgatory. And, you hear stories about people who almost died on the operating table or had a heart attack and they were trying to resuscitate and they saw heaven or they saw hell or they saw loved ones or, their life flashed before their eyes and all this, all these different compilations of stories. So I was like, you know what? What if I took this idea of being in a state of limbo, so to speak, for lack of a better term, and wrote a story about oneself and conquering yourself. Um, and that's how basically Stranger in a Familiar Place came about, or at least the start of that idea came around. The name came up later when I'm trying not to give too much away in the book, but I was talking to my dad. I said, Dad, it's like I'm having such a hard time trying to figure out what to call this book. And I explained to him what was going on and where I was headed with it. And I was like, everything I come up with just spoils everything. And he's like, you know what? That sounds like he's a stranger in a familiar place. And he said it just like that. And I was like, Daddy, that is genius. How did
Wow.
you even come up with that?
Wow.
And he
That's
was like,
awesome.
it's what it sounds like. A stranger in a familiar place. I was like, I'm using that, Dad. He's like, it's all right if I use that? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right, appreciate you, Dad.
That's cool. That's
So that's
cool.
how Stranger in a Familiar Place got its name. I worked on it for about 2 years or so. I was still working a full-time job. I still have to pay the bills and whatnot. So it took me about 2 years to kind of map everything out, do the first draft, rough draft, go back over it. And when I wanted to put it out, I've, thought about doing the indie route scene where I could just do the self-publishing. But I kind of wanted to know, like, hey, is my writing good enough that a publisher would pick it up? Because, it's one thing to tell yourself, like, yeah, I'm bad, but it's another person to tell you, from the industry that you're trying to get into, like, yeah, you bad,
Right.
Um, so it's kind of like almost telling somebody you're a celebrity on Instagram who already has 3 million followers. Like
Right.
it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So, um, I went ahead and started querying, and got picked up by a publishing company. They decided that yes, we want to go ahead and pick up your book. So and I was absolutely thrilled with the whole thing. I started working with them to put it all out. We've made a couple edition changes. What you actually got sent was the second edition for when we revamped the cover on it, and I've just been so thrilled and pleased with the response. A lot of people have said like, "Oh, it reads like a C.S. Lewis," which C.S. Lewis is one of my favorite authors. And I wrote it in his style to where if you just want a good story, there's a good story there. But if you want to dig a little deeper into it, there's a lot there for you to unpack if you want to. And that's really how I wanted it to be. I really wanted to make it accessible and relatable. And one of the things that I did in this book, which I'm really kind of proud about, is that when I first wrote this book, I originally set out to make the main character anonymous. So it could have been a girl, it could have been a female, older, younger, whoever, whatever, all else. Like I wanted it to be like a question of like, well, could have this been me, or could that have been that dude walking across the street?
Right.
Um, so I really kind of wanted anybody to be able to fit in the shoes. But when I started writing it to get the dynamic that I wanted, I was like, okay, I do need to settle on a gender, but I'm gonna make a compromise. Um, in this book, I do mention it to him, but I absolutely give no description of the main character. Like the main character does not have a description. And then I didn't even want people formulating necessarily a description of him. So when I was trying to come up with the cover, I'm like, don't show his face. Like I don't want people to have a preconception of him because I want them to insert themselves into the story or as much as possible. Um, so he has a gender, but that's only because I needed it for the dynamics that I wrote. But ordinarily, you won't read what he looks like, what he sounded like. There's no black, white, yellow, tan. Elias could be anybody in this case, and I was really happy with that effect.
Wow, that's awesome. So this is your first book.
Yep,
Right now,
this is
this
the
is
first book.
okay. Wow. How your husband? How does he feel about you writing a book? How does he feel about that, and the rest of your family?
So the rest of my family, it was kind of like, yeah, okay, we knew, like,
They
like,
know,
why
right?
aren't you done it sooner, kind of thing.
Right.
They were extremely supportive. Pretty much all of my family members, minus my sibling, that's right above me. She's more of an audiobook person, which hint hint
Okay.
nudge nudge. We are getting an audiobook out for A Stranger in a Familiar Place. I'm actually working on that. So, Bria, if you're listening to this, we got an audiobook coming. So, we are working on an audiobook so she can read, or, people who like the audiobooks can take a listen to the audiobook. But they were so super super supportive. They still like my stuff on Facebook. They share when applicable. They were thrilled about it. My husband, he's not much of a reader. But it was funny. He picked it up to read it though, and he said, "Babe, I can't read this." I was like, "Why? What happened?" And he's like, "I read the first 3 pages and I wondered why you married me."
Oh, wow.
He's like,
For real?
it was just that good that I literally was all like, I can't read this. I am questioning why this woman even decided to marry me, kind of thing. I was like,
Wow.
yeah, but you can still read it though.
How long you guys been married?
So we have been married for 7 years, this past
Okay.
February.
Nice. Nice. Wow. Wow. Got 2 cats and a dog. I like
Right?
that. I got 3 dogs and a cat.
Okay. So
We can make a Secret Life for Pets movie, part 6.
well,
Phew,
there
man.
ain't no secret about my pets. They all
Oh,
family.
yeah, yeah. I love the animals. I love animals. Very comforting. So, I don't want you to tell too much of the book about the book because I don't want people to, we don't want to mess it up. We want y'all to get out there and get this book. What's the future with you? What do you see when it
So
comes to writing, anything?
I'm actually writing a second book right
Nice.
now. It's going to be an indirect sequel to the first one. You don't have had to read the first one in order to get the second one. It's sort of separate. But one of the characters in the first book does make a return. The polar bear Malak does make a return back, and they do make some references to the first book. So if you've read the first book, it'll be a nice little tip of the hat to those readers, but totally separate. Um, I don't know, if this is going to be kicking off or anything like that. Right now, I don't write for the fame. I write just because I simply want people to read it. I mean, if it's Netflix comes around and goes, "Yo, we want to make something." By the way, if anybody knows
Yeah,
Netflix,
right.
hit me up. But I really want people just to read and enjoy my stories. I get the most satisfaction when I hear somebody say, "Hey, Baracka, I picked up your book and I loved it. What was this character? What were you thinking about that?" Those are the people that I really want to write for, and get enjoyment out of, to see that their imagination is taking off, and hopefully I can inspire black women, in particular, to go off into the genre. For fantasy writers in particular, I don't
Right,
find a whole lot of black fantasy writers, and in particular, the ones that don't stray out of the African American genre. So what I mean by that is that if you do find a fantasy writer, they're predominantly writing with a African background or culture to them. Now, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I strongly support those people. Bought a few of the books myself. I think it's wonderful that they are into their culture, but I feel like most black women or just men in general are fit into this mode where you're expected to write those kind of fantasy stories. Oh, you're black and
right,
you're gonna write a African. No, 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 no. That it I could write a story about steampunk if I wanted to. That had nothing to do with African culture. Like the characters could be
right.
black, white, yellow, red, doesn't matter. But it seemed like there's this box that if you're a black fantasy writer, then that's what you're writing. And it's like, no, I, we can write more than that. And so I really want to inspire others, like if you want to take a chance on a different type of genre and not just in the African American culture, go ahead and do it. We have
Right.
ideas and a different perspective that people are looking for. And that's the whole thing, is just to be unique, and it was funny when Twilight came around, there was a whole bunch of vampire werewolf stuff, and it was just blah. And then the
Yeah.
zombies, the trend came around, and other than The Walking Dead, which after a while that got beat like a dead horse, no pun intended.
Right.
It's just like I don't. I mean, if you like writing about it, you like writing about it, but don't follow a trend.
Right.
Just so you can get likes or views or be popular. People are looking for the unique. They may not say it, they may not act like it, but they are looking for the unique, and they are
Oh
looking for
yeah.
that different. And to give your perspective on something that you may think of a twist in sign language as magic, or as blind people who see the future or something. I don't know, I'm just throwing the ideas out there, but you have a unique
Right.
perspective that shouldn't be contained to just one subset or one genre of writing.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So with all this writing that you're doing at this time, when do you have time to hang out in the Otaku playing pool and gaming? When you have time for that?
Lord, so with all the stuff that has been going on, I have literally kind of set myself on a schedule. So most of
Yes.
the time during the week, it's all about exercising most of the time. So 5 days out of the
Right.
week, I go straight to the gym, because if I don't go straight to the gym, it ain't gonna get done. So
Right.
we go straight to the gym. We
Oh
come
yeah.
back. We write about 20 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on if inspiration strikes for the book. So I sit down, write 20, 30 minutes or so, and then after that, if I haven't made dinner by then time, we made dinner, and then after all that's done, we might get 20 or 30 minutes of gaming in during the week, maybe.
Right. Right.
Maybe. I'd usually watch shows with my husband. That's our thing to do, is that we watch shows and stuff together. So during the week, that's usually what we do. But the weekends, though, the weekends are usually like, all right, I'm in my otaku space. Don't bother me. I'm gonna game for like 8 hours, and I'll be back out.
Wow. Wow. That's cool. That's cool. Because you got to make time for your hobbies. No matter what you're doing, got to make time for your hobbies. Have to. You know?
Right? It's
So
therapeutic.
it's definitely therapeutic. Yes. Yes. What advice can you give to someone who's just starting off writing and just might be a little scared, a little lost? What advice could you give?
I mean, not to sound like a broken record, but be you and be unique. Um,
Right.
when you're coming up with an idea and you're like, oh, no one will write that. No, 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 no. Do that. Explore that idea. It's okay to go back and revamp stuff. That may not land necessarily correctly, but not every idea is going to take off, but not every idea is a bad one either. So definitely make sure if you got an idea to explore those options, get somebody else to read it if you feel comfortable with that. And bounce ideas off somebody. Sometimes the greatest inspirations I get is watching other people or do their thing or seeing someone else work, and that gives me an idea of like, oh wait, I could use that to make this better. So definitely don't make yourself an island. Get that feedback. Get people to help you out and just explore and write and make it better. Be open to criticism was the other thing I would say.
Right.
It's not fun. And when I say be open to criticism, be sure you get criticism from people that truly want to see you do well. That's a very important thing, because they're the ones that are truly trying to make you a better person or a better writer, not just give you a critique off whatever else is going on. So I would say definitely have those people that'll tell you the things that may not be what you want to hear, like oh, this scene doesn't make sense, or your sentence structure is sloppy, or something like that. Those are the things that are going to make you better.
Oh yeah, support is definitely important. Um, you definitely need support, and people that's gonna tell you, hey, nah, nah, that's not. You gotta be able to deal with that. Some people, oh, may not be able to deal with criticism. You gotta just. I would rather for somebody to tell me, hey, nah, I don't, I don't think it makes sense, than to be like, yeah, girl, go ahead. I ain't gonna buy that. You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
got people like that won't say nothing to you, but they know they should have, So that's why you gotta have that right support, you know. it's
right.
and
You
so it,
you don't you don't want a yes man. You really not,
right,
especially in the world of writing. You don't want a yes man. You want that constructive criticism, and I just definitely want to keep it
right,
constructive criticism. Not somebody who's
right,
going to tear you down,
yeah,
as a person and or as a writer, but give you that feedback to be like, bruh, like, you're writing this character as 6 foot tall, but yet you looking down on him. You can't look down at a
right,
6 foot tall character. Those kind of things.
yeah. You need that construct, not like you big dummy. Didn't you see you spelled that word wrong? You don't need people talking to you like that either. So yes, constructive criticism is very, very important. I'm proud of you with your book. I can't wait to read it. But anything else you want to say about the book?
I hope you all enjoy it. Please be on the lookout for the new book that's going to be coming up. You guys can follow me on Twitter and on Facebook, Stranger in a Familiar Place at Barakah Smith, where I'll be giving updates on how to find the book, or any updates on the previous book, and also on the audio book that's going to be coming out soon. I have had a wonderful, wonderful audition with Mr. Quickson. I think he's going to do a wonderful job bringing the book to life, and I can't wait to share his voice with you guys.
Nice, nice. Now, Erica, where can we find you and your book?
You can find the book on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and on iTunes or Apple iTunes in ebook format and paperback, and soon to be audio for Audible and Amazon and iTunes as well. More details on that later. You can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter at Stranger in a Familiar Place at Barakah Smith.
Nice, nice. Nice having you on the show. This has been awesome. I can't wait to read it. And I can't wait for you to come out with the second one, too. Just keep going and do what you got to do. And keep up with that weight loss. You know, you lost 70 pounds, so, don't overdo it now. Some people, they start losing weight, and I think sometimes they just can't find them. Standing right there, you be like, I'm right here, girl. What the?
Believe
Lost
me,
so
I
much
think I
weight.
could
I
lose
don't.
100 more pounds, and all this black girl hip is still gonna be here. Okay,
No,
we ain't
we
gonna
born.
overdo it though.
Nah, we blessed with that. We is blessed with that. That's why I say I don't know why a lot of these young ladies, and I ain't knocking nobody. I don't know why they keep going out there getting these operations. I'll get back in that gym. They want that body, boom, 24 hours. Go and do it the right way. Work out and just eat right. Your vegetables, your fruits, drink water. Get that natural back to the body because we got it.
Oh
We
yeah,
got it. Might have
we
to
got
just
it.
lift it up a little bit, make it a little tighter, but it's there.
It is all there. We kind of live in a microwave society where we want it instantly, but nobody wants to put in the
Right,
work. You
right.
gotta work. Some things you just gotta work for, and it's not fun and it's not pretty. And yes, you gonna sweat, but at the end of the day, when you get those results, you gonna get
Yes,
the response that you want to.
absolutely. I like that. I love that. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Baracka, for being on the show. And I
No
just want to
problem.
tell everybody out there to live, laugh, love. Love you first because you can't love anyone or anything unless you love yourself first. Stay healthy. Stay focused. Keep God first in your life and hug and squeeze your family members and your pets because they family too. Just a little bit tighter. I love you, mommy and daddy, forever. Baraka, thank you so much for being on the show. I want you back, especially when you do that part two. Definitely, you're more than welcome to come back on the show and tell us what you know about that second book, because I know it's coming. I bet you writing now. Probably
Oh,
writing about it right now. And furthermore, he walked into the room. I know you are, because a writer always writes. And I was going to ask you that. Do you be somewhere and all of a sudden something just come to your head? You need that pen and
oh,
paper and start
all the
writing?
time. All the
See?
time. You should see my little notepad. I got notes for other stories that have just popped in my head
Yes.
that will one day get out.
Yes. And every writer says that. Something, they could be doing something, all of a sudden, boom! I gotta get this down. I gotta write it down before I forget. So yeah, that's good. But God bless you, sis. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey everyone, this is Barakah Smith, and you've been listening to the Listen Up, Listen In podcast with Preezy. You can check me out on Twitter for any current and future updates on any titles that I might be writing, and also you can follow me on Facebook as well on Stranger in a Familiar Place. If you want to join along on the adventure with Malak and Elias, you can find Stranger in a Familiar Place on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the Apple Store for ebook and paperback. Thanks guys for listening.
Oh, thank you.
That concludes this episode of Listen Up, Listen In with your host, Preezy. Hey, yo, Preezy, tell them how to keep in touch, baby.
Go to Instagram, Listen Up, Listen In 5687, and on Facebook, Listen Up, Listen In. You can also email me at listenuplisten5687@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, by following me on social media, you'll be able to see all the platforms my podcast is on. Wherever you consume my podcast, hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when a new episode is posted. Rate, review, and share this podcast.
Listen up, listen in. Listen up, listen in. Yeah.